I'm really honored to welcome a special guest, and she's a leading voice for young people in the continent. And then talking about Africa, climate, and also development race. Because we just meeting at the end of the Africa Climate Summit number two that happened in Addis. That was from the 8th to the 10th of September, and I think the pre-event was 5th to the 7th. And the ACS two, it's a defining moment where we have leaders, we have innovators, financiers, they coming together. And what they want to do is to chart Africa climate pathway. And from what I understand, from what I've seen, the summit was not just about declaration, it was much about delivery. So how can we move forward, from words to action, from pledges to pipelines, and also from ambition to accountability? And this is what is important. And in this conversation that we're going to have just right now, so what we're going to do is to unpack some of the key outcomes from ACS2, the opportunity it opens for Africa green growth, and also the hard choices that are still ahead, as the continent navigate climate, finance, but also development at once. And I'm very much excited. It's a young person giving us her feedback. So this also giving us a perspective of what the youth of Africa is thinking. So stay tuned, guys. We're going to have a great time together. Hello again, I'm Tony. I'm the founder and CEO of Renewables in Africa. So what we do is very simple. We raise awareness about renewables energy and sustainability. So if you want to break, expand into Africa, so we are your eco break to this market. And we can help with three things: visibility, lead, but also deals. Or we tell you, hey, what we want as a business is to decarbonize. Not a problem. We also need to bridge to sustainable pathway, and we can help you with carbon footprint assessment and also carbon reduction strategy. Any question there, do let me know. But today, in fact, like I say, I have a very special guest. Yeah, so I'd like you to meet her. So just give me a chance to introduce to you. So Joy Noise. So Joy, can you hear me?
Yes, audible. Hi.
Excellent. Welcome back. I thought you love it there so much. We're gonna stay in Addis.
Yeah, honestly, I was going to, but yeah, my flight was already booked to come back, so I had to jet back in. So yeah,
I can
it
imagine.
was a beautiful experience, though. I got a
Was
beautiful Addis dress as well.
okay. Was it
Yeah.
your first time in
So
Addis?
again?
Was it your first time?
Oh yeah, it was my first time in Ethiopia.
Excellent. That's one of the cities that I've not visited. I've been to many places in Africa, but not Addis, and that's definitely in my bucket list. I
It should
definitely
be.
ah yeah, definitely. I keep that in mind. So Joy, as I say, so I know you for now for probably a year or two now, and then like I say, you are a bright young woman, sort of a young leader, young voices for the continent, definitely defending the interests of the continent. But I'd like you to introduce yourself so that the other people, listening to us get to understand who you are.
Okay, thank you very much, Tony. Hi, everyone. My name is Joy Wednesday. I'm the founder for Africa Upcycle Community. I'm also one of UNESCO's young youth trainers, UNESCO youth trainer. I'm also one of the young people that was contacted by German Parliament to influence feminist climate policy for the global south, which Germany is currently building. I am a voice for climate policy discussions, environment, social and governance as well. Also, for short, a climate activist. So we do projects, and my organization have been able to reach about 14,000 young people in and across the world, directly and indirectly, in trying to take some action on climate change.
Excellent. I think I couldn't get the better voice for me to talk about this Africa Climate Summit. That's the second one. Because just for reminder for the people, the first summit happened last year. It was in Nairobi in Kenya. So that was the second time. So where it's going to be the third time, I don't know yet, but I'm sure you may tell us. But from your perspective, what would you say made the Africa Climate Summit number two in Addis different from the first one we had in Nairobi?
So I would say that the first thing would be the framing and the shift. There was a framing shift, and the theme as well. So this year theme was at accelerating global climate solutions, and more on financing for climate resilience and green development, of course. And there was more emphasis on finance as investments, not just as aid or pledges. So there's a shift to saying, okay, we want finance to become an investment. And also, there was a great focus on African led solutions this time around, and as well as with implementation that are homegrown climate solutions, locally driven climate solutions, nature and technology based as well. Also, we know the GGGI, Global Green Growth Initiative. They also launched something for Ethiopian young people that are local initiatives that are, focusing on how to solve this problem. So there's a shift on, focusing on these things are more important. Also, there's pledges on the accounts of accountability as well, and roadmaps. Also, there was a declaration as well, Addis Ababa Declaration on Climate Change, which was produced. It's more on presenting Africa in a united front towards COP30. And I
Hmm.
find that very interesting as well. Um, Also, I think also it's also um, coming at the right time as well in relation to like G20, UN General Assembly, COP30, Africa speaking with a much more coordinated voice this time around. Also, one other key aspect of the summit, I would say, is as different from Nairobi, is finance.
Yeah.
It was much more central, larger scale, different quality. Like I said, there was a shift from aid to investment. So now it includes both private capital, blended finance, risk mitigation, just unlock more climate finance, also access to financial flows. Also, there was a conversation as well as the inclusivity as well, and equity for Africa and Africans, to include young people, women, indigenous peoples, local communities, and all of that, just to make sure that everybody is being included this time around in whatever we're doing. Also, related to you this time, there was also the conversation around renewable energy targets and green industrialization as well. So they have increased like renewable energy capacity. So from the target from Nairobi, now ACS2 is pushing harder to see how to realize those industrial and value chain opportunities, to just increase the feasibility of this happening for renewable energy. Also, there's new continental programs. So, for example, they had a mission to provide electricity access to 300 million people by 2030. Also, there's an emphasis in, to highlight more on trade, green manufacturing, critical minerals, as well as. But yeah, generally, I'd say that it's been improved as well. There was a whole bunch of the whole conversation on finance and a united front. So now Africa is pivoting from being should I say, the victims, to becoming the solution, the voices, and not just that, coming on a united front, which is more important to solving such kind of challenges.
Excellent. I think that's it's interesting to hear that, and it looks effectively that that was a very failed event with a number of actions that were taken there, and you've talked about a lot of them. So if you don't mind me, I'm probably going to come back a little bit to each of them so that we get a chance to better understand, not only for me but also people listening, because I know there's a lot of people listening and they will find what you say very interesting. So coming, for example, to finance, I'm glad to hear that finance was a recurring theme, because we know at the end of the day, without finance, we don't go very far, right? So, but the challenge that we're hearing year after year, then you also mentioned that, right? We go to those conferences, and you and I know that it's all about pledges, But people are tired of pledges. Pledges at the end of the day don't give the light to the people in rural areas. They don't care about whatever you've decided. What they care about is what have you able to implement and to put into action. So, from what you have seen, is there any concrete step, maybe maybe one or two concrete step that has been taken to move beyond the pledges and mobilize real capital?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
So I would say the first thing I noticed was the $50 billion target via the new finance initiative. So we've launched the ACIC, African Climate Innovation Compact, to mobilize 50 billion annually in dollars to finance support for 1,000 African climate solutions basically by 2030. That's one key one. The second one I would say is the $100 billion investment for green industrialization and energy. Um, so basically, African developmental institutions like and commercial banks, they've made an agreement to mobilize $100 billion.
Okay.
Yes, for green industries, renewable energy, and resource management initiatives. Like I said, I mean, it's really ambitious to get renewable energy done in Africa, but of course, we can do this with money. The third thing I'll mention is there was a launch as well of some key financial facilities like the African Climate Change Fund, which was supported by the African Development Bank,
Mhm.
AFDB. Basically, is just to channel green bonds and other finance instruments like to suit African conditions. Also, there's a Africa Adaptation Acceleration Program. That was also introduced as well to help like resilient infrastructure, urban adaptation as well. There's also a strong emphasis also on the finance. I would say the fourth point would be an emphasis on grants, high okay, concessional finance as well. So there's a repeated call for climate finance, around adaptation, around resilience, to be delivered as grants this time, rather than like, of course, debt
Mhm.
getting loans for Africa and the whole continent, which has been the situation over the years. Also, there's been a push of reform from global climate finance architecture, making borrowing terms easier, lower interest. Those were also highlighted as well as key outcomes, and reducing the currency exchange risk. Yes, making finance as well more predictable. There's also a clearer alignment, just before I stop there, there's a clearer alignment of finance with local homegrown
Mhm.
solutions as well, just like I said earlier as well. But yeah, in terms of energy access and clean technology, finance, I talked about the Mission 300. So
Yeah.
targeting renewable energy access for 300 million Africans by 2030. And then clean cooking targets for large numbers was also put forward as well in the summit.
Yeah. And the great thing is that you mentioned about Mission 300. I obviously come across this uh, big ambitious program, and I've attended a briefing that they did that was here in the UK. Very interesting. Obviously, African Development Bank was there, and African Development Bank at AFDB, they have a new president. That's I think Mohammed Sidi Ulta. I can't remember exactly his exact name. Anyway, the key member there, and they're planning about rolling a lot of renewables energy. So you mentioned. So when you were saying that they're planning to go further than Nairobi, for example, for renewables energy, because that's an area, like you say, I'm directly interested in. I want to find out if we're gonna have more jobs. So, what could you remind me what target you say that is set for renewables energy? If there was any in particular?
It's just the 300 million Africans.
Yeah,
Um, and in terms of like industrialization and energy, there was 100 billion
yeah.
as well dollars that they set as well for that. But in terms of, yeah, that's the two that I know that I picked up from the
Okay.
summit.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's no, I think that's good enough. I think the cynical part of me would say that I'm hoping that they're not announcing that they're going to take 3 years to deploy that. So like by the time we be at what ACS 5 4 whatever. But okay, no, it's very interesting what you said there, and we know as well that what's happening in the continent, it's very much influenced by global institution and private sector. So did you get a feeling that the conversation that we had in Addis, you know, helped to reshape the partnership between Africa and those global institutions? Because that partnership, I would say, at times for us Africans, we felt for a long time that it was one-sided. So, what has been done to rebalance this relationship?
Hmm. So, in terms of what has been done to rebalance this relationship between Africa and the rest of the world,
Yeah, yeah, the global institution, because those are usually the financiers, those are the investors. So, to to put it bluntly, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so I would say that there has been a shift as to what what it has been like, which is shift from aid to
Hmm.
investment partnership.
Correct.
So Africa is not coming, sorry to use the word, as a beggar this time. We're repositioning not as a victim, like I said, but as a partner this time. So
Sure.
there's been a massive shift. And I feel very excited for that shift personally, because as an African, I want us to have the view, global view of much more united front, and number two, not as victims, but as solution providers. So yes, there is also like a joint ownership of like
Hmm.
large scale climate programs. Yeah. So the AFDB, obviously, the World Bank and others, they've literally, by launching this 300 million, they've made it more equal decision making in the world perspective, as to how this works. Also, there's I would say also there's been a push for financial system reform, gain credibility as well. So I would say that the World Bank and the IMF as well have acknowledged some of these demands, and they've pledged to make finance faster and fairer for African countries. Yes, in terms of how this has changed your view, I would say is more of multilateral partnerships that have been formed. Yes, that also for the private sector you mentioned earlier, sorry, excuse me. For
Okay.
the private sector as well, there's been Africa is now open for like climate smart business, like around renewable energy, climate tech startups. So there's now like a space for private sector and innovation. So basically, it's helped like shift Africa's relationship with global institutions from a donor recipient model to like a more balanced strategic partnership. So it's more of co-investments,
Hmm.
mutual benefits, and like climate leadership. So yeah, I think this time around there's been a lot of change
Hmm.
as compared to before now, and global institutions are, the view is changing from what it used to be to much more um, partnership centered this time.
Yeah, and I just want to take the chance to say that you were there in young person capacity, young leader capacity, and I just want to share a couple of pictures that you were kind enough to share with me, and then I just wanted you, if possible, to talk us through those pictures. For example, we're just gonna have the first one. For example, what was that panel about? And then yeah, I can see you were a speaker there. That's great to see that. But maybe you can talk us through what happened there.
Okay, thank you very much. This panel was a photo taken during the session organized by PACJA and Water Aid, where I was one of the youth speakers on the panel. It was a session around shaping young people's involvement in climate discussions, climate policy to be precise. So, and getting young people to be more involved in the national adaptation plans, the nationally determined contributions in their countries, in their respective countries, because there's a if we realize there's actually a gap where young people are not actually involving in these climate discussions on the local level in their countries. And so, because of this, they don't even understand how to actually frame their work or how to even support their countries in actually achieving this climate ambition. So, this session basically is helping young people to get more involved in climate policies and the on the ground solutions that the countries are providing. So yes, on the panel we had we all as young people already making fantastic changes in our respective communities in our countries, and just explaining to young people why they need to involve themselves more in this. And explaining what these abbreviations are, and how to get involved in them, and how to research and how to start as well. To be able to help them as well to harness these opportunities, climate related, because the truth is, if they're not well positioned to understand and research and get why they actually should be involving in this, they cannot really become innovative as they should. So because if there's a knowledge gap already, they are not able to be as impactful as they should be, even though they might want to actually change some things. But
Hmm.
if you're not able to get involved directly with what your country is doing, you're working in silo, if that makes sense. So yes, just helping basically out there. And also one key thing as well is getting them involved so they can actually hold their countries accountable, because accountability is actually the major thing lacking across board in our continent, Africa. So if they get involved, they're able to now track and say, okay, this is what year these NDCs were released. This is what year they said this is what's going to happen. This is what month it was going to. Okay, what has happened since then? How has the funding gone? What has happened? What do we need to do? How can we scale things up? So if they don't actually follow up on these things, they actually cannot make the change they actually need to see that is scalable, impactful, and actually helpful to their respective countries.
Excellent. I think, and I'm hoping that that message was definitely well perceived by the young people that attended, and obviously the young people that will listen to that. I want to take you back to some of the challenges and accountability. That's one word that you just mentioned there. So having young people taking their country accountable. You know, many people argue that Africa contribute the least to climate change but pay the highest price. So how do you feel that ACS2 address that climate justice in practical terms?
Hmm. So in terms of how ACS2 addressed climate justice, I would say that, well, I would say that they have now realized that it's more of holding high. There's a fact that, okay, so let me just mention this. We had a non-actors bilateral meeting,
Yep.
non-state actors bilateral meeting with the EU VP, and there was a conversation during the Q&A. Somebody raised a conversation about um, the debts, of course, and the fact that Africa is not producing as much, and we're having to suffer. I mean, that's been the line for so many years, which is actually true. But really, there was a conversation also by the VP of the EU, referring to the fact that there is a lot of transitioning happening, especially in the renewable sector, and them trying to pivot support in terms of transitioning and making the African continent more green, with the solutions they're creating. So really, I would say in terms of accountability, yes, we were able to hold them accountable, but there's only so much that we can do really in
Correct.
in terms of speaking out or climate justice generally. It's just trying to speak to them. The fact that there's adaptation, loss, and damage, that's true. There's historical emissions. There's the fact that also there we need just energy transitions, which already talked about, that the VP already was working towards in the European Union. So they're already working on it. However, we know that that's not enough. We know we want more. We want more change. But personally, I did say to the VP as well after that meeting that, although I didn't have a chance to ask questions at the meeting, but after the meeting, I said to her that I believe that Africa needs to also, as an African, we need to also look at how to begin to solve these problems and think about it from an internal perspective. So there's the fact that we're already in so much debt as a result of the loans, but there's the fact also that we have resources. There's the fact that we have resources that can be channeled to solve the problems that we have, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So we have gold, we have some powerful natural resources. How can we actually come together to collaborate to actually solve this our problem?
Yes.
So it's amazing that we've put the united front, but in terms of natural resources, in terms of what we have, we can actually use to solve this problem, to achieve climate justice for ourselves.
Correct.
How are we actually positioning as a continent to actually do that? So
Yeah.
that's another problem that of course, I didn't raise that question in the meeting, but personally, I believe that climate justice is achievable without, this is my personal unpopular opinion, without the United European Union, without help from abroad. I believe that climate justice is achievable by Africans for Africans with what we've got at the moment in our continent. So how can we actually come together, not just to front us to united in the face of EU, but also united in the face of climate solutions for the continent in terms of solving the debts that the climate debt loans that we've got. How can we actually come together? So it's amazing we've come together for ACS2, but what can we actually do to solve this climate debt everywhere and achieve justice for ourselves? How can we actually collaborate to do this
Yeah.
with African resources? So this is my key question from the summit, I would say.
Yeah. In fact, I did. I had a conversation was a couple of guests ago with a young man called Landry, very much an expert in critical minerals. So definitely would recommend anybody to if you watch me, you're probably gonna put the link in the comments. You want to go and listen to that. Very interesting. But I hear what you're saying. So essentially, Africa is so wealthy. We have those materials, those minerals. So how can we use that, leverage it to have a better conversation? Because we hold part of the equation, the minerals, and the West, all the part of the world, they need to move into energy transition, but they can't do that without what we have. So how can we sit down, have a better conversation? So there's a situation whereby we can have some fair trade between ourselves. They get what they want, we get what we want, without anybody having to exploit the other. So that's a very deep conversation. I think definitely I hear what you're saying there, and that's one way of achieving climate justice. And I also like the other fact you say that, and that's true. I absolutely subscribe to that. It may be unpopular, but I think we're going to be too unpopular. So the fact that as Africans we can already solve a lot of our problems by ourselves. First of all, as simple as that, with 54 countries, we should already trade a lot more between ourselves. As simple as that. I think the trade in Africa is probably something sitting like low double digits, something like 11, 14%. If you compare that to any other continent, is a lot higher. Even that already will significantly boost things. I know AFCFTA So the single market that's been built is taking way too long to properly materialize. But like I say, that's another conversation. I just wanted to support you in the argument you were making. Say that absolutely, I hear what you're saying there, and it does make it makes sense. I have a question for you. I think we've heard that ACS2 is all about moving into action, which is what we want. Because like I said, pledges after pledges, great, but at the end of the day, like I say, this is not what is providing power to people out there. Yeah. So to my grandparents, your grandparents, so on and so forth, people in rural areas, not even in cities, right? So do you know if there was any mechanism that were put in place to actually track and enforce delivery of projects so that when we come to ACS3, I think for me, I love something like that for at the start of any big conference. Is say, hey guys, last year we were here. That's the tracker. So this year we're doing the same conference again. We here. This is what has been done since last time, so we can track progress. Do you know if they talked about any sort of mechanism to actually track delivery?
Oh, well, that's a very great question. To be honest, currently no, but from this summit, there was some proposed and also in development initiatives, and of course, there's also one which is fully developed that have been put in place. So the one I would say is the Africa Climate Action and Accountability Framework. So it's called ACAAF. So it's proposed to be a continental tracking system to monitor the implementation of national climate commitments, and track delivery of climate finance, to be led by the AU Commission, African Union Commission, and partnered with AFDB, UNECA, and just like that. But yeah, that's proposed. Also, in development is the digital climate reporting dashboards as well. Also, there's also a built-in tracking called the Country Climate Compacts, which is for the
Mhm.
mission 300 I talked about earlier. So basically, it is to clear goals, timelines, help to indicators, measure electrification process as well. Also, in terms of the one that is, I know that is fully formed, just to really shrink my response, is the UN and global alignment. So one of the trackers would be the UNFCCC Triple C Global Stocktake. On also the Paris Agreement monitoring systems, and then the SDG 13 indicators, which is climate action. So that is, of course, that's a key tracker to know what's happening. So yeah.
Excellent, excellent. I think that's really helpful to see. Effectively, I'm aware of some of those trackers. So the compact that you mentioned, the stock take, that's part of it. Yeah, it could definitely help. So coming out of ACS2, so is there any immediate opportunity that you see for African countries to collaborate regionally? What would you say?
I would say yes. So opportunities would be, number one, positioning Africa as a climate leader, not as a climate victim. Just like I said before, that's one opportunity. So it's shifted the narrative. Of course, also leveraging African strengths as well, vast renewable energy potential, large youth population, sorry, and of course rich biodiversity and carbon sinks, like the Congo Basin. Also, I would say another opportunity is boosting homegrown innovation and
Hmm.
green technology. So for supporting local climate tech startups, SMEs, innovation hubs, just like that. An opportunity to develop as well clean cooking technologies as well, and also to get some support with that. Off-grid solar, climate smart agriculture. I talked about the GJGI innovation hub as well that was launched. It's around agriculture. That's the
Hmm.
focus, and also the green industrial materials as well, like the bamboo, bio-based products as well. And I'll say another opportunity would be the renewable energy as well. So the target to connect 300 million Africans to electricity, creating jobs, of course, and in manufacturing, energy, maintenance, also like investing in solar, mini grids, battery storage, things like that. And then another opportunity I would say is greater access to climate finance. So, like mechanisms like the Africa Climate Facility and the Loss and Damage Funds. Also, there is also like more concessional finance, so more opportunity around grants and, of course, low interest rates loans. So lower interest rate loans as well. That's an opportunity as well. I would say also green industrialization, climate resilient agriculture, which is very, very key to the African continent. It's an opportunity. So the Africa Climate Summit is trying to drive some investment in drought resistant crops, which of course is a key problem in the African continent. For example, we know that in Nigeria, the northern Nigeria loses about 400,000 hectares of land due to desertification every single year. So, like getting climate smart and resilient agriculture to develop drought resistant crops like that, irrigation and water harvesting technologies. These are the opportunities that have come out of the summit. Also, support for food security and livelihoods as well. Very important, like which is related to me more, is the youth and civil society engagement. So there's been youth innovation challenges, climate education training. That's an opportunity as well. Of course, grassroots leadership in climate resilience projects that the African Climate Summit always supports, and launching group support for young people and the innovative approaches they're making as well to climate change and the crisis in the continent. And of course, policy and institutional strengthening as well. So there's stronger national climate policies being created for the African continent as an opportunity, of course, as well. So there's also the creation of climate ministries,
Mhm.
which is now being a very new thing. Ministry of Climate Change, green banks, resilience funds as well, and also including the climate into like national development plans
Mhm.
in general. So these are the opportunities I would say. So there's finance access, there's energy access, there's tech and innovation, climate leadership, resilient agriculture, just to summarize, green industry, and of course, institutional growth, youth as well, resilient agriculture, and youth and civil society, basically. Yeah. So
Okay.
this
So do you feel like this ACS2 summit was a turning point? Or
absolutely 100%, 100%, 100%. Africans are we're taking actions, we're leading the change now. We are not behind, we're not taking the back seats. We're now moving forward to see, actualize these changes, to partner, to say, hey, this is what we're bringing. What are you bringing? And I'm so proud of what the African Development Bank has done in this ACS2. And I really hope for more multilateral organizations to also follow after this process and see and emulate this change that AFDB has decided to take a lead on. So yes, absolutely, there's been a whole massive progress and change.
excellent.
Um, yeah, finish from the last one.
No, that's brilliant. So that give me to my very last question for you, and it's something maybe unexpected for you, but it's actually quite customary for people that we receive in this platform. I always like to give you a small challenge, which is give you 1 minute to address a group of your liking. You can talk to young people, you can talk to investors, you can talk to decision makers, and then 1 minute I'll say to you, what is the key message that you have to for them? So I'm just going to go on backstage to leave you the full floor. So it's almost like you pitching them. So first of all, who do you want to talk to? You want to talk to investors, to young people, to decision makers? Who you want to talk to?
Hmm. Okay, that's difficult, but okay, I would say maybe young people because
Young. Excellent. No, no problem. I think, don't tell me.
I
Excellent.
want to talk to everyone, but yeah, I'll just choose young people.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go backstage. Like say, just 1 minute. Don't make it long. Is a pitch. What is the message that you have for these young people? So let us know, Joy.
Hi, young people out there. All I really want to advise and say right now to you all is to keep on lending your voice, be the change you want to see in the world, your voice is really loud. It might seem as if you are not being heard, but keep on going, keep on pushing, keep on lending your voice, and keep on advocating for what you believe in. Also, number two, research, get involved. What is the thing that your country is doing in climate change, in making the change? Research, get involved, get interested, and with that, you are showing that you are capable of being what you intend to be. That's two. Number three, I would say be bold. A lot of resistance will come in actualizing the dreams that you have. So you have to be bold, be resilient, never give up. It may seem like your voice is not being heard, like I said earlier, but it is being heard. You are making a change. You are doing a lot of things. You are keep speaking up, keep showing up, and also be articulate. So try to strategize really well. What is what you want to achieve? How can you achieve it? What are the things you need to achieve to make sure that you're actually seeing the needed results you want to see? And well, that's it really for me. I would say young people need to be the voice. They should to keep advocating, because at the moment young people make up for 25% of the world's population. That is not small at all. So your action, your inaction, it influences the world. So if you decide to act or not, it influences the world, and that's why you need to act. So please come out, be heard, be the change, lead, speak up, speak out, and never, never, never think low about yourself, because the world is looking up to you, and you can do so much, so much from just being yourself. So I'll see you at the top, and I wish you all the very best as you go on your life's journey. Yes, and with climate change, it's never stopping. You keep going on and on and on. And we need to go harder and harder at fighting and adapting our continent to resist its impacts. Wishing you all the best, and have a beautiful rest of your day.
Excellent. That was actually a fantastic motivational message.
Oh, oh, thank you so much.
Excellent. So, Joy, it was a real pleasure for me to have you on our platform. And like I say, so you were obviously attending the Africa Climate Summit too. That was at the at Addis in Ethiopia. So giving us an account of what it was. So we're looking forward to seeing you again in on our platform. But for now, so I will say to you, thank you very much. So it was a pleasure, and then yeah, so have a great rest of the day. I know you need to
It's
take
an honor.
a bit of rest because you just traveled back just recently. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much
so
again.
much. Thank you so much. It's an honor. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye. Okay, so we have just seen Joy. So just want to say to her one more time, thank you for helping us unpacking the real impact of the Africa Climate Summit number two. So what we've heard today is that Addis was just not another conference. It was, from what I could hear, or what you could hear, a real call to action, a test of delivery, and also a chance for Africa to define its climate destiny. To the audience watching us, I know there are many of you, and by the way, thank you because you're sending me email, so you're commenting. I appreciate that. You're reaching out. I appreciate that. So the road from ACS2 will be written not only in communique, but in project built, in community protected, and future secured. And just like Joy was talking to young people, you gotta act. Everything is in your hand. You can do so many things. And you know what? If you don't do anything, you're probably gonna finish off grumpy, old and grumpy. I don't want it for you, right? So definitely seize the moment and make things happen. So thank you very much for joining us, and see you in our next episode. That's Tony to you from Renewables in Africa. It was a pleasure to have this expert interview with Joy. So take care and see you another time.